Hey everyone, this is Kevin from Kevin's Microfleet. Today I'm coming to you with a Micro Galaxy Squadron review. We're going to be taking a look at the Starfighter class Series 4 TIE Bomber. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the vehicle, at the figure. We'll go ahead and do some measurements, and then we'll do a comparison. Let's go ahead and dive into the review. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here with the packaging. So here is the front of the box, so you can see your TIE Bomber in there. You get your pilot, shows here that you got a cockpit that he can go down into. TIE Bomber on the bottom, 85, Series 4 there on the side. As you turn this to the side, there's nothing really on the side. Flip it around to the back. You get a chance to see here that the wings do disconnect. You've got a little bay door here that opens. There's a picture of your bomber cut out, and then you get the other vehicles that are in this Starfighter class. Turn this around to the bottom so you can see the UPC if you want to get that. There it is. And that is the box. Now, when you open it up, the card backing looks like this. So you get a Millennium Falcon, you end up getting a couple bombers in there, you get a TIE Fighter in there, Star Destroyer off in the background, and then just kind of a space scene there. Now, on the underside of the package, where it does show TIE Bomber on here, you get a chance to have just a little tiny scene. So here is what the scene looks like. You get a couple TIE Fighters in there, Star Destroyer in the background, in an asteroid field. And that is that. So now let's go ahead and dive into the figure. So the figure is actually inside this tiny little package, which is a great feature that Jazzwares does with all of their Micro Galaxy toys, that they come in these little packages, which is really fun to open. And you can see right away, as I go ahead and take this pilot out, the amazing work that they've done here with getting that Imperial cog on the top of the helmet. The sculpt on this looks really nice, so it actually looks better than some of the others that I've seen. It's got just a little bit more detail there in the chest plate relative to what we would normally see. A little bit of color there on the chest plate as well as the belt. This guy does articulate. His arms and legs do bend like that. And that is your pilot. Now he is measuring in at 1 inch tall, just like all of the other Micro Galaxy Squadron pilots. So, our other figures. So now here he is compared to the Action Fleet version. It's kind of funny seeing the Action Fleet version up that close. It looks like he's almost wearing a scuba mask. You can see he's just got the two little white dots there on his helmet. And for the sculpt and the technology that they had at the time that they produced this Action Fleet one, they did a fantastic job. All of this is actually hand painted as well, while this guy here, the Micro Galaxy one, is all machine painted. So very cool figure. So let's go ahead then and just dive right into the TIE Bomber itself. So this thing looks really nice. I really like the size of this. It looks like the size I would expect a bomber to be, which would be slightly larger than some of the other vehicles, which I'll do later. I'll do a comparison of the TIE Bomber to some of the other vehicles in the Micro Galaxy Squadron line. And so just doing a quick tour of this, a 360 spin here. They've got the glass on the cockpit. They've got just a little tiny view hole there where you can kind of see through. And then you've got the wings here on it. On the back, you've got the two little engines there, and then you've got this little drop port. So let's go ahead and turn this thing upside down so you can see there is actually a bomb in there getting ready to be dropped, which is a great feature. I really love that they added that in there. You don't really have to because it's on the bottom of this thing, but it's very cool. And it's a much better idea than being able to have actual bombs that drop out of it. That was something that was discussed at a point, but you can see how small that bomb is. I mean, it would be like 3 millimeters wide, and you would lose them immediately if you actually had them. Now, on this guy, here is what the top looks like, which we'll open these compartments here in just a minute. And then you have your wings as well. So the wings do detach. So I'll show you what this looks like. They actually come off pretty easy relative to what some of the other ones are. And so you have two different adapters here. You have this D-ring here on this side. And on the other side, it is a different adapter. So you can't interchange the wings. So you get whatever you want to call that. So that way you can attach them. There is a little rib right on there you can see, which helps these wings click in place, which is nice because like you have on the Vader TIE Fighter, the wings are just very loose and they can just fall right off. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. The first thing I want to open up is the bomb bay door. So this is a really cool feature that they added. You can hear that click to snap that open. And it has all of the bombs inside, which is very cool. Those are just painted details, obviously. None of those come off and are removable, but it's cool to get an opportunity to kind of see what the inside of what that bomb bay might look like. And then to my favorite feature of this, the cockpit. So when you open this up, you actually get 2 seats in there, which is a very cool feature. The details on the inside of this are really impressive. I mean, being able to see the control panel there where, you know, the pilot would be steering, that little clip right there will be the hooks where we can hook the pilot in. And then to turn it around here to where you basically get your bomber, he's got another control panel in there. You can see that there's a little tiny piece down there on the bottom for him to be able to fit his legs in between, which is just really, really cool. I love that they did that with 2 seats. I don't think that that is part of canon or anything like that, but it's just a feature that they added in to make this bomber just a little bit more cool and have some more playability to it. So let's go ahead and I want to pop the pilots in here so that way we can see what that looks like. So here are the 2 pilots in there, and it looks great. So you can see with the actual pilot, he's got the little clip there in between his legs to hold him in place. The bomber here in the back doesn't actually have a clip there to hold his legs, so he is a little bit free floating. I mean, you can see if I shake this thing around, he may end up moving around in it. There you go, there he is, falling down. So you could probably take like a little blue tack or something like that and put it on the seat to make sure that he sticks in there and holds in nice and tight. But that is the interior, which looks really, really cool. So let's go ahead and do a couple measurements. So from side to side, this is just over 4 inches. So it's 4 1/4, 4 3/8 maybe. And then from front to back, it is 3 3/4 inches. And from a height perspective, it is about 2 3/4 inches. Now, before we get on to more of the comparison, if you have liked this video so far, please go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And then you can check out the description to be able to find any of the other Micro Galaxy Squadron toys through Amazon. There are Amazon associate links, as well as my Etsy page, where I will have an STL file for a hanger for this, same one that I used for the Vader. I'll just go ahead and redesign it for this guy. So thank you for all of the support. So now let's go ahead and take a look at a comparison to the old Action Fleet version. So first thing is with the Action Fleet version, you actually got 2 different figures. So you get a TIE pilot and then you get this Imperial naval officer. So funny thing about this naval officer, you can see his head is actually turned 90 degrees to the side, which looks really funny. So throughout the years, we've had an opportunity to interview a few different people and ask a bunch of questions through the forums and found out that his head being turned 90 degrees like that was actually an accident. When they sent over the design for this guy, his head was actually at a 45-degree angle. And when they sent the plans over to Japan for them to go ahead and make the mold, they read the plans wrong and actually turned his head to 90 degrees, which is the reason why he's in that position. So pretty funny history about this specific figure and the reason why he is turned that way, but such is life. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the actual vehicle itself. So you can see here a big difference here in the size of this from front to back. So I would say the Micro Galaxy Squadron version looks a little more accurate relative to the movies than the Action Fleet one. Again, it's much more truncated, shorter from front to back. From side to side here, you can see the height of the wings are pretty much the same, very, very similar. And then on the underside, you get a chance to see some of this as well. Now with the not with the Micro Galaxy Squadron, with the Action Fleet one, there are a couple other features to it. So you get your opening cockpit, which is actually a slide, which is a pretty cool feature. They actually have this little bay door here that opens that has a small engine component in here. So this thing actually does come out. That's just a loose piece. And then they have a firing mechanism here, which has this little laser. So on the underside, you got this little thing, and boom, we can shoot that thing out, which is cool. It's got this little arm that pulls down so you can then insert the laser back in here. So again, that was one of those things where Micro Galaxy Squadron considered having something that could drop out, but didn't want to have any firing missiles or anything like that to make it too gimmicky, and so they decided against it. So that is the comparison relative to the Action Fleet, the other TIE Bomber that we end up getting in a similar type of a scale. Let's go ahead and take the TIE Bomber and we'll compare it now to some of the other Micro Galaxy Squadron vehicles that are in the line. So now here is the TIE Bomber compared to some of the other Micro Galaxy Squadron vehicles. So we have the Series 1 TIE Fighter, we've got the Series 4 Light Armor Class TIE Interceptor, and then we have Vader's TIE Fighter and an X-Wing to compare it to. So starting out with the bomber relative to the TIE Fighter, as you can see from the pictures that are on the back of the card backing here, if you're looking at the TIE Fighter relative to the bomber, they're not actually in the same place. So this one's further off in the distance, but you can see the bomber is bigger than the TIE Fighter. I don't know all of the scales. If you want to get more of that information, you can see my friend Jonathan's page, rebelscale.com. He has all the scales of all the Micro Galaxy Squadron vehicles. So here you can see that that TIE Fighter relative to the bomber. So, it is what it is. The TIE Fighter is a lot smaller. Now, if you're looking at the TIE Bomber relative to the Vader TIE Fighter, you can see, again, huge difference. The bomber is significantly bigger than Vader's. Vader's could even ride on top of it if it wanted. And looking at it front to back, you can see similar in terms of length front to back, just a lot smaller. And then here it is relative to the TIE Interceptor, which I did a review on, which you can check out on the channel. And this one, the cockpit looks a little bit closer to the size that you would expect if you were looking at the TIE Bomber relative to another vehicle. So it is what it is. Again, I don't really know the scale of the TIE Bomber relative to many of these others, but that is that. These vehicles are not designed to be perfectly in scale with one another, so I wouldn't get that concerned about it. If you were looking for the scale to be exact, it's just impossible to do that for many reasons. And then here it is relative to the X-Wing. So you can see there that the width is about the same. There it is from height perspective. And finally, we'll do one last one just because I have it sitting here on the table, the Y-Wing. So you can see now the two bombers, the Rebel bomber versus the Imperial bomber. The Imperial bomber is a lot shorter, and there we go. So that is it for the TIE Bomber. If you've hung with me for this long, I appreciate you tuning in. Again, you can like and subscribe the page. That would be great. There's a link to a Facebook page I run with some other friends, as well as links to my Etsy page, as well as all of the other Micro Galaxy items you can get on Amazon. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you hanging with me, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the next review.